Good morning. On this Friday after Thanksgiving, which is November 27th, 2020, also the 4-month birthday of my granddaughter, Jessica. Happy birthday, Jessica. Maybe someday you'll see this video. This channel is dedicated to not just the building of the apartment for Ramirez and myself, but to our story. Our story that in the future will include a in-person proposal. I've already proposed. I've already bought the ring. She's already accepted. She already wears the ring. So I think we're doing okay. But nonetheless, 3,000 miles and the Gulf of Mexico, or part of it, separate us. And come spring, that will no longer be the case. I will fly to her and do a proper couple-week courtship where I date her and let her get to know me. I need to know nothing more. And get her family and her friends to give their input as to what they think of somebody as much older as I am than her, asking her to marry him. And trust me, when I ask her, I will ask to be her husband, not for her to be my wife. I think it's an important distinction. I've had a lot of great victories in my life, personal accomplishments that were important to me, if not important to society. And I really want to dedicate the rest of my life to helping her achieve all she can achieve. And I think she can achieve a incredible amount of success, personal and business-wise. I think I have a lot to offer. Probably the only thing I don't have to offer is longevity, because I'm much older than she is and obviously won't be around forever. And good looks. I don't look horrible. I'm not disgusting. I'm not gross. But, well, you can see by the screen, I don't measure up to that in any way, shape, or form. It bothered me for the first, I'd say, year and a half of what is now 4.5 years of an online relationship. But after a year and a half, I started realizing that the world was not deserving of Ray's love. I don't think there's anybody out there that deserves to have her as a wife. But I also know she loves children. She wants to have babies. I'm a great dad. I'm a great partner in raising children. And so I thought I'd take a crack at it. I did not think I'd succeed. I thought I had zero chance of getting her to accept a proposal from me. But I knew one thing. I knew it would be fun. I knew it would keep us both entertained, amused, and interested. By a year and a half in, I knew her personality and mine were a great match. I knew we'd be a great team in some business ventures down the line. And when I went into this, I had seen a picture of her when she was a few years younger than the picture that's presently on the screen, which is when she's 18. And I thought she was the girl that I'd looked for all my life since I was 12, 13, 14. Started thinking about relationships. The only problem was her parents weren't born yet. So my chances of finding her back then were zero. As I married for the first time to a brown-eyed girl, which fit part of my desires, she still wasn't born. When I married the second time, and the first marriage lasted 10 years and resulted in no children. When I married the second time, to the mother of my daughter, who I am eternally grateful for, because I love my daughter, and my ex-wife is the person that I am so happy I had my daughter with, because although maybe our marriage wasn't the most beautiful thing in the world, it wasn't bad. There were many good years. But she was, for the first couple of years, when I was so ill-equipped as a 44-year-old, 45-year-old, and 46-year-old man to raise a baby, my now ex-wife was the baby whisperer. She was the most amazing mother. And by the time our daughter reached 2 and 3 years old, I was fully ready to take over as at least a full partner, if not a primary parent. And my daughter and I, since she was able to say a word, have been best friends, close buddies, confidants, and partners in a amazing team. So anyways, after my daughter was born, finally Ray was born. Very shortly thereafter. She's a year younger than my daughter. So anyways, I came upon this picture of Ray when she was about 15. And I thought, you know, if I was 15 again, there is the girl that I dreamed of all my life. Okay, so I filed it away. I contacted her, found out a little bit about her, sent her some money for a dress. She hustled me for a set of heels as well, which I thought was adorable being from New York. I like somebody that has some confidence. And I never really realized how shy she was. But shortly after getting in touch with her and establishing a minor friendship on Facebook, I had been forming a modeling agency online, strictly out of boredom because I was at the end of my second marriage and was dating young ladies I shouldn't have dated. And for motivational reasons on my part and their part, that weren't going to lead anywhere. Anyways, I saw this kid and thought how cool she was and fun she was, and shortly thereafter she got engaged to obviously a kid from the village, a childhood friend, very good looking guy. They made a beautiful couple. And I thought, congratulations, you're a lucky guy. And every now and then I'd stop back to her Facebook page strictly to see the wedding pictures of her and her handsome new husband and their beautiful children, and the pictures never came. So now fast forward till she was 18. I had just broken off a relationship with an interesting young lady who I had very little in common with other than we were both capable of hustling. And I started thinking. I said, I cheated on my first wife, I cheated on my second wife. I'm probably not going to get married again. I was in my 60s. I thought, should I even bother to look for a relationship, or should I just head to Nevada anytime I got the urge? I live in California, so it's not much of a drive, and there's things that are legal in Nevada that aren't legal here. And I thought, that's fine, I can do that, but I'll fall in love with whoever I play with in Nevada, so I better have some other love interest And I thought an online love interest of somebody thousands of miles away would be a perfect complement to a physical relationship with somebody or some buddies that are in the area. So I started searching, and almost immediately I remembered Ray. I remembered that she was exactly what I had wanted all my life, and she was way too young, but that didn't really matter since nothing was going to happen. And because she was in the Dominican Republic, I figured possibly if I were to contact her and give her a reason why keeping in contact with me would be of value to her, that she might be happy to take the deal if she wasn't married yet, because she's been engaged for way too long. So I went to her website, and I saw that she wasn't engaged anymore. Bonus point for me. And then I flipped to her photos, and I saw the photo that's presently on the screen. And I no longer felt guilty about finding her attractive. I saw a beautiful young woman. I saw exactly what I wanted to dream about when I fell asleep. And I thought, here goes nothing. I was sure I was going to get shot down, ignored, whatever. I sent her the occasional phone card, the occasional $20 or $30 through her mom's account, because at the time I was sending, she was too young to have an ID. But what was the downside? I was expecting nothing out of the relationship I was trying to create. I was expecting nothing more than a fantasy long-distance girl if she was into it. And so I contacted her. And I told her I loved her. She's a college student. She obviously understood that when I said I loved her photos, because I didn't know her that well. I did voice activation for it and misspelled her name through voice activation. But I've had 3 modeling agencies, and one thing I've learned with modeling agencies is if a model has confidence and you make a mistake pronouncing her name or spelling her name, that she will immediately correct you. And if she has no confidence, if she has less personality than what I was hoping Ramirez would have, she lets it go and just ignores it. Well, I misspelled her first name, and I got almost an immediate response of the proper spelling from her. I told her I stood corrected. I asked her how she was doing. She engaged me in conversation. I told her that I'd been following her, and I found her very, very beautiful, very, very interesting, and was she interested in being friends? And to tell me a little bit about her life. She said sure, she'd be friends. And she told me she's just entering university, psychology major. She graduated high school at the top of her class. And she said it was financially difficult for her family and her to afford school for her, but they were going to push it as far as they could. I saw my opening. I asked how much is school. She gave me a pesos number. I converted it to US dollars and found that I could put this girl through school without much trouble. It was ridiculously inexpensive. So I said, what sort of expenses do you have in addition to just your tuition and your books? And she said it was a bus ride to school, and told me the price. And I added everything up, and then I said, would it be okay if each month I started sending you a certain amount of dollars to help you with your education? And she asked me, why would you do that? And I replied, the same reason you wear lipstick and high heels, to get your attention. She thought that was pretty reasonable. She said, sure. Of course, she didn't think I'd actually send the money. She thought I was just some guy online playing her. But I did have history of sending her gifts along the way, so there was a little bit of belief in it. So it went on for a few months where I sent her money, and about 4 months into the now relationship, I sent her some flowers in a balloon. Trust me, you do not want to send flowers in a balloon from the U.S. to the Dominican Republic. You can buy a car for the money it costs. However, it absolutely delighted her. She showed it off to her family and her friends. And a little later I had her sister pick up a flower locally for me. That was another thing. A little ways into the relationship, her sister noticed that Ray had a little better lifestyle than she had previously had. Her sister's older than her, at the time with one son, and so she got inquisitive and started trying to figure the whole thing out. Finally, one day, I got a Facebook message from her sister saying, "You're my sister's boyfriend." I certainly didn't want to deny that I was the one helping fund her, but I didn't want to butt my nose in where it didn't belong. So I played dumb. I asked her to see a picture of her sister. She sent me a picture. I said, that girl's way too beautiful to be my girlfriend. And it went on for a little bit until I said, why don't you ask your sister about it? And Ramirez admitted to her sister that I was the guy that was helping her financially. And explained the situation. And her sister got back to me and was very supportive and very sweet. And as you can see, Ray's a beautiful young woman. Anybody would be lucky to have an online relationship with her. She also was very, very attentive. She honestly texted me every day, multiple times each day, telling me what she was doing, where she was going, how things were going, and started taking interest in my life, asked me about my previous relationships, do I have children, and then who was my daughter, and could she see a picture of her, and what sort of relationship did I have with her. And it went on for almost a year like that. And I had lots of delightful pictures from her, lots of pictures that made me smile as soon as I saw them. She always dressed well. She always looked like she was going out every time she took a picture and sent it to me. I asked her about it once, and she says, well, no, I get dressed up so I can take a picture for you. I thought that was incredibly sweet. And so I enjoyed that. And let's see. Yeah, sometimes she dresses up and I just look at them and just am in awe of how beautiful she is. of how sweet she is, of how kind. I haven't included any pictures of her with her nephew, and now she's got a little niece. But her mother has told me that Ramirez was instrumental in raising her younger brother, who's now, I believe, 8. And her sister told me that she was the apple of the eyes of her little niece and nephew. And she was very, very responsible for helping raise them. You can't help falling in love with a beautiful young woman who loves children and who is going to college to get a good education. And one day I got this, and I asked her about it, and she said that she thought we made a really good team. And I agreed. I thought we had a real future of helping each other. And I asked her about the heart. And she said, we're going to get married and have 3 children. And I didn't ask about love because it seemed impractical. She's a very practical young woman. She hasn't been raised with a silver spoon. She lives in the real world. And apparently she determined that through our conversations, she knew that she had my heart. I never denied it. As things went on, I fell more and more in love with her. But I also told her I expected nothing of the relationship on her part. It was enough for me to be able to be in love with her. But this was sort of a hint at what was to come. She got more beautiful every day, but she had never smiled in her photos, if you'll notice. One day I asked her, I said, why don't you smile? And she said, I have a crooked tooth. I said, well, why don't you get braces? She says, oh no, they're way too expensive. My family and I can't afford them. She says, maybe someday when I graduate from university and have a good job. And I asked her, I said, well, how much is way too expensive? And she says, you mean just to get them on, or for the whole treatments and the whole, couple of years? And I said, yeah, for the whole thing, to go from not smiling to smiling for the camera. And she said, and she came up with a number which, well, it was good money, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like braces in the United States, that's for sure. And I said, go to Western Union. The full amount's there right now. And I sent her the full amount. It was the most money she'd ever had in her life. And I know she had wanted a new iPhone at the time. And I said, you can spend it on whatever you want. If you want the iPhone, you can buy the iPhone. If you put it towards braces and get your braces, I promise you there will be an iPhone in the future for you. She chose the braces. And here's a picture of her relatively early on. This is tough. There came a day when I really felt, after about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, that it wasn't fair for me to pursue a relationship with her. Obviously I started sending more than the money for her to go to school because I wanted her to have the salon experience every Friday, which she had, before I started sending money, had never had a chance to enjoy. And trust me, it's a lot cheaper for salons there than here. So one day, I said that it was a good idea that when she graduated school, that we dissolve our partnership, and she finds somebody deserving of her. And immediately she texted back, "No, we can't do that." I asked why we couldn't, and she said, "Because I've fallen in love with you, and I want to marry you, and I want to have children with you, and I want to raise our children together." She had talked to my daughter a couple of months before this, asking about what sort of guy I really was. And my daughter simply told her, "If you don't mind old and ugly, he's the nicest guy in the world." Apparently that's just what Ray Marison wanted to hear. So after she said she loved me and we were going to get married and we were going to have children together, I said, "What about a ring?" And she sent me this photo showing me where the ring belonged. Ray likes to get dressed up and get makeup and glammed up, and she certainly is beautiful when she does it. This is for one of her friends' weddings. But I told her, I said, "I love you looking that beautiful, of course. Anybody would. But I really love the cute Rays." And I haven't included any of the cute Ray photos. Those are between her and me, and most of them contain her younger brother or her niece or her nephew or all three of them. She's like the Pied Piper of those little kids, which is very similar to who I am. So anyways, I didn't want to include pictures of children that I didn't get permission to use. Ray has told me that all the pictures I have of her are mine to use any way I want, and I appreciate that. See what I mean by cute? Anyways, now you know the story of us. That pretty much brings us up to the present. There was a moment when she had cousins coming in from the U.S., and she had always been, beholden to them for taking her out on the town, taking her to the disco. And so at that juncture, I thought, here's a good time to take another step. And I sent her a good amount of money, which would be a good amount for 3 people partying on the weekend in the U.S., which obviously is much more than necessary in the Dominican Republic. And she wined and dined and partied her cousins that weekend. And Monday morning rolled around, and word got back in her village that Ray was out spending a lot of money. For, at the time, I think she was 20-year-old in her village. And her mother and father sat her down and said, "Okay, we know you have an online relationship with an American, and we need to know about him and his intentions and your intentions." I kind of thought when I sent her the money this was going to happen, and I figured this was the moment that she would probably tell me that she couldn't go on with me because she couldn't explain to her folks how she was involved with a much older man. On the contrary, she sat her folks down, told them exactly what she felt for me, who I was, how old I was. She explained the whole relationship fully to them. And her mother replied, "I was hoping it was him. That's the guy that sent you money to me when you were younger for a dress and some heels, isn't it?" And she says, "I sort of followed him. He seems like a real nice guy." And her father is a man of few words, and didn't say much, but didn't disapprove. So after Ray told me, I thanked her mother through Facebook Messenger, explained that I had never intended for her to fall in love with me. That it was just, I saw I could help her. I thought she was beautiful. The more I got to know her, the more I loved her, and I intended to have our relationship hold her with an open hand so she could date anybody she wanted to, see anybody she wanted to, fall in love with anybody she wanted to. I was there to be supportive of her. And her mother thanked me for all that and said that she thought that I was a good match for her daughter as a husband, and she would support our relationship. Kind of blew me away. That certainly made me happy. About 5 months after that, Ray explained to me her father didn't have a cell phone. So I sent him I sent her money to buy him an inexpensive cell phone, which was all he really wanted. And as soon as he got it, he texted me. He thanked me for the cell phone. And then he said, "Everybody wants something." It took me a couple minutes to respond, but respond I did. I told him, "You're right. Everybody does want something." I told him, "I saw your daughter. I thought she was very beautiful. I got to know her. I thought she was a good human being." And I told him that I wanted the same thing for her, as he wanted. I wanted her to have the best life she could possibly have. I said I saw a chance to step in and help. That happened. I said, I put braces on your daughter before I've even met her, so that she could talk, smile, and flirt with other guys. I said, I'm helping pay for a college education, so when she graduates, she can have good income and not need to marry anybody else to support her. I said, if that's not the sort of guy that you want pursuing a relationship with your daughter, tell me now, because I would never come between a father and daughter. I said, you have my blessing to find her a better guy than me. I said, however, if you don't, she graduates in a couple of years, and I will come over with a ring and see whether she is interested in what she says she's interested in. He responded, I said, do I have your permission to continue pursuing a relationship? And he responded with, you have my blessing. I asked Ray a couple of weeks later, I said, and I told her everything that went down. And I asked her, how's your father's search for a better guy going? And she laughed and said, he's not even trying. He's happy with you. So that's our relationship. Now we're building an apartment where hopefully when it's done in the late spring or early summer, I will hop on a plane, fly to the Dominican Republic, take Ray out on about 2 weeks of dates, sit down with her family and sit down with her friends, get their honest input on whether they think I am going to add to Ray's future or detract from it. And if all goes well and everybody is supportive of it, I will bend down on one knee, take the ring that she already wears and re-offer it to her and ask her if I have her permission to become her husband, to be known as Ramirez's husband, in her village and throughout the world. And will she allow me to spend the rest of my life helping her achieve all that she wants? If she says yes, a wedding will ensue very quickly. And I've been told by her that also we aren't waiting any longer to have children. We will start that process immediately. That is the rest of the story of the apartment build. Thanks for sticking around. If you did, thanks for your interest. Please subscribe to our channel. Please like, and if you want to comment, if you have objections to the relationship between an older man and a younger woman, feel free to air them. I've got pretty thick skin. I'm from New York. And Ray doesn't speak English, so she really won't know what you said. Have a great day. Thank you.